Hi everyone, we're here today with Brian from Kinsta, who is the Chief Marketing Officer and probably one of the most active guys on social media I've ever seen. So hi Brian, thank you so much for joining us, and could you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Is there anything I missed?
Sure. No, I mean, you pretty much got it right. I do kind of live on Twitter. I think that is very true. Um, I think Twitter just really works great in the WordPress community. I feel I've chatted with a lot of people and they feel like Twitter, is kind of dead, but I feel like a lot of WordPress people use Twitter, and so it works really well for us. Um, and yeah, anything about me? I in my spare time, which is not very often, I try to blog on my. I run my own little blog too. I also sell a couple premium WordPress plugins, but most of my time is spent marketing Kinsta wherever you see it. So
Could you tell us a little bit more about Kinsta 2? How did that all start?
sure. So that started. The original team actually started back in um, Budapest, Hungary. So there was like five or six of them that they were actually doing like website development work. And they kind of got tired of the client type of work where, you have to find new clients every month and it's not like a consistent type of revenue, basically. And as they were doing that, they were also noticing that um, the hosting options out there just weren't great. This was in 2013, mind you, because now you have a lot of competitors, I think, in this space. But in 2013, for managed WordPress hosting, there were only a select few. Um, so they were working with their clients, seeing, there's nothing really we can do for them that's great. So let's start our own, basically. Um, so they decided to launch their own. Um, and really the focus was on speed, security, and high quality support. Um, Being our CEO is like a sysadmin. I always say the term, I don't want to use the term nerd, but he is like a nerd. And that's why I love working for Kinsta too, because he always made sure, like that we're using the latest versions of PHP, stuff that, maybe some of our competitors, the CEOs at those companies might not put as much weight on. But for us, that's something that has always been important from day one, just like using the latest technology, just like, if you were a developer, you would want to use basically. Um, and so I joined the team in, what was it, early 2016. Um, a funny story, I was actually one of Keensta's clients before I joined them. So I actually had already fallen in love with, and I had used a couple hosts before that, like bouncing around. You know how people do, they bounce around hosts like every year, trying to find the great one. Um, and so, yeah, it was just kind of a perfect match. I was already doing marketing for KeyCDN, which is a delivery network. And so, yeah, we kind of connected on Skype, and yeah, kind of went from there. It was a perfect fit, joined the team. And when I joined, there was probably, I think, 8 people. And now we have like 50 to 60 people. I don't even know the number anymore because we're constantly hiring people. So yeah, we've grown, in the, what is it, a little under 3 years now. We've grown, yeah, really, really fast. It's hard to keep up sometimes. So
Apart from Kinsta, there are a lot more hosting companies out there at the moment, as you mentioned as well. So, what makes Kinsta the best choice for customers? Why choose Kinsta? Why did you choose Kinsta?
yeah, so I mean, I guess, yeah, that's a good question. Why did I choose Kinsta? And I won't mention any competitors' names because I don't like to bash anyone. But I mean, for me, I'm really obsessed with performance. I've always been, just because I'm not, I wouldn't call myself a developer. Like, I can do a little bit with code, but I'm really obsessed with web performance. For some reason, I really just like how it impacts even like SEO, because I do a lot of writing. That's majority of my job is writing. Um, and I really just, yeah, like how it impacts SEO, how it impacts, bounce rate and users who are coming to your site. So, speed affects, so many different things about your WordPress site. Um, and I just fell in love with Kinsta because I could tell speed was really important to them. And in 2016, when I joined the team, there were, a few more competitors in the space at that time. And the few that were there were kind of already growing to the point where they kind of, I think, lost focus on performance. They were more like in this, um, just we're the biggest in the industry in the WordPress managed space, and so we'll just keep growing. And so, speeds start to dip. You start seeing more downtime. The support gets worse and worse because they haven't scaled it correctly from the beginning. And to be honest, part of that's, I don't think, their fault. Some of the first WordPress hosts, I think, were the first, and they didn't know what they were doing. Like, they were the first in the industries to really pioneer managed WordPress hosting. So it's hard to know, how do you scale a support team for an industry that's never happened before. um, but I think, from day one, Kinsta focused on doing support a little different than like everyone else. And when I was a customer of theirs, I could definitely tell the difference. It's like, wow, I'm actually chatting to someone that is like a developer. Like, I can actually, talk about code and they'll know what I'm talking about. Or like, I've used this plugin and they're like, oh yeah. And then they go into talking about this plugin. Like, they actually can have a conversation about it, not just like, we'll see if we can fix your problem and you're waiting 5 minutes to see what happens. So that was something why I kind of fell in love with them. And from the very beginning, and this is partially due to our, thanks to our CEO, he wanted to do it differently from the very beginning. We don't have different level tiers of support reps. So in most companies, you have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and if the tier 1 can't fix it, they'll put you on hold and they'll like pass it off to tier 2. Like, we don't actually have that at all at Kinsta. We try to hire only the best of the best, and like, we have to invest a lot more in our support team because of this, because we're not just hiring different tiers. And so our support team, is, I would say, one of the best in the industry. And we do offer 24/7 support via live chat, which some others do that too. But our average response time in 2018 was under 2 minutes. So, and a lot of times it'll be like 20 seconds, but the average, is under 2 minutes. And so I feel still for, how fast we're growing and how many clients we actually have like that. We figured out how to scale it properly, I think, to achieve the quality of support like I, as a customer, would want. If I have a problem, I just want to open up a chat window, talk with the developer who actually like uses the plugin I'm having a problem with, or, sees what the issue is and can help me right away, instead of just bouncing around back and forth. And we don't actually offer phone support. This is another thing that's, some people might think it is as a negative. But we found that, even working with enterprise clients, like, we host Buffer's blog, MariaDB's website, FreshBooks, Drift. Like, we host tons of big companies. And we found like the first thing that they do when they call you on support is they need to send you a screenshot, or they need to send you a link. And so right from the get-go, you're already bouncing around between different things, and it's actually a waste of time for not only for our team, but also for the customer. So we decided, like, we don't offer phone support, and we probably will never offer phone support, no matter how big we get. It's not a matter of manpower for us. It's a matter of like, how can we be best productive for everyone? And so we found that we use intercom, and so, for live chat, and we found that it's probably the best way to, you can share links, share screenshots, chat, and live, real time. So we found that to be the best route for us. And yeah, I guess that, talking about support, I kind of rambled on there for a little bit. I'll let you go ahead.
Another thing that we could all probably agree on is that Kinsta is unique with the branding through the awesome illustrations. So how did you come up with that? And there's probably a full-time designer that works just on that, right?
Sure, yeah. And I don't mind sharing her name, because we get asked that actually a lot recently, and we actually had a discussion, like, do we want to actually share? Because we do. It's not actually a member of the Kinsta team, but it's someone we work really close with actually in Budapest. Like, I would consider a member of the team at this point, because we work with her so much. Her name is Maya, and I I don't want to mispronounce her last name. So like if you can include it in the notes on this if you want or something, but um, she has a cool Behance profile and stuff on Dribble and all sorts of stuff people can check out. But um, when we first started out, I was actually doing all the illustrations myself for our blog and the writing, and the SEO. And finally, we decided, okay, I can't do all of this. Let's hire a designer that's really good at this. And we kind of took inspiration from like, even though they're slightly a competitor of ours, like DigitalOcean I think has always done like a really great job. I don't know if you've seen their blog, but they always have these really awesome illustrations. And so there's a couple people in the industry we kind of like said, hey, let's do what these guys are doing because we really like it. And I think it makes a big difference for your blog posts if you have, nice illustrations. But yeah, we kind of work with her. We have kind of a whole workflow in Trello. I also live in Trello, like tons of boards. And just, yeah, a good little workflow. Like I'll, write a blog post, get it in draft, and then I'll ping the designer to get an illustration. And she's really good at knowing our workflow now. So like, I don't even have to tell her like, this is what the blog post is about. She'll just whip up something amazing and I'll throw it on the blog post. So yeah, for any business, I think it's really important to find someone like that. And I know it's hard, I think, because it was hard for us, but yeah, finding a good like designer, whether it's hiring someone full time or outsourcing it kind of like we do, really, really can help a lot, I think.
I know that you work with content marketing a lot, obviously. So, where did you learn all the things that you need to really excel in this exact field?
Um, I've kind of, I guess I would say I'm self-taught really. I went to school or to college for web design, and I really don't use my degree. Like I don't do web design at all. I guess you could say if I'm working on WordPress sites, it is a little bit of it is kind of web design, but um, and then my background is actually in IT, so I did IT for probably like a good 8 or 9 years, um, and but I was always blogging and doing writing and stuff in the evenings, like as kind of a hobby. Like I've always enjoyed it from day one. Ever since I think it was back in high school, like when I figured out like you can make money like on the internet, just sitting at your computer and you can make money from the internet. It always fascinated me, and so learning that like there's ways to make money by writing was really cool because I've always just enjoyed blogging. And so I guess you could say, yeah, just learned over the last 10 to 15 years kind of how to write. I focus a lot on in-depth content, so like rather than pushing out lots of quantity, I focus more on the quality. And I found that just works really well just for social shares, for Google rankings, everything. So I don't think at Kinsta we would never publish, I don't think, anything under like 2,500 words. Like that's a bare minimum for us, and like we typically go into the 5 to 6,000 word range, which I will say is exhausting at times because yeah, I mean it's a lot of content to write if you're just pushing out. We do like 3 blog posts a week, so it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. But yeah, I've just learned little tricks here and there. I did a lot of client work back in the day too, for SEO stuff in the evenings, and so I've kind of learned with clients, kind of what works here and there too. But yeah, after doing IT for 8 or 9 years, I was like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. That's why I have huge respect for our support engineers, because I just hate support. Like I don't want to wake up and see stuff broken and that my whole day is fixing things. Just not, I finally got tired of that. And so I love marketing. I love just like, figuring out new problems. And that's the one thing with SEO and content marketing. It's always, changing. Google's changing. Users are wanting different things. So it's like you're always having to strategize new things.
And do you have any advice to people who want to start or improve their content marketing? What are the common mistakes or some good practices to follow?
Yeah, I would say if you can, if you don't have time to write, find some good people to outsource to. We actually have a couple partners on our partners page on our website that like we actually do use for some of outsourcing for our content. I don't write everything anymore just because I don't have time. I used to, but so some of the stuff on our site is actually outsourced. And I think finding a good partner for that is really crucial. And that can be one of the most difficult tasks, I think, is finding a writer, even more than a designer. Like finding a good writer is really, really hard. And my advice would be, just like put out different feelers and like try different writers, like invest a little bit in like just trying different writers. And once you find one that works, like don't let them go, basically. Um, and give them, as much work as you possibly can, to keep them happy. And if you do that, I think finding a writer and then finding a good workflow, I think is also important. Like, because once you get the content, I'm always adding my own personal stuff. Even when we get stuff from our writer, I'm always adding my own stuff to it and tweaking it just because I know how the readers of our site like to see things and how I like to portray our company. And so there's still a lot of editing time for me, even when they write it. And so, finding a good workflow from, we use Trello a lot. So we have our writers in Trello, like different Trello boards, and like we'll give them topics in like one column here, and they'll move it to like an in progress column and then move it to a done. And then I'll actually like move it to our own marketing board, like a copy of it. And then it goes into like my own personal in progress board, and then into another draft mode, and then to a design mode, and then finally a publish mode. I know that sounds like a lot, but when you're doing this consistently, like you have to have good workflows. Otherwise it just results in chaos. Um, and so yeah, Trello has worked really well for us, but yeah, finding the workflow important. I think I mentioned already, like I would focus on writing, long form content, just skip the short stuff. I don't think it's going to, do anything nowadays. And you have people writing even longer stuff now, like, like an example, like Brian Dean at Backlinko is a great example. Like, I mean, he publishes like just massive 15,000 word, 20,000 word blog posts. And so like when you have people writing more, I mean, you kind of have to write more too. So it's almost a scary thought because at some point, where does this stop? um, yeah, with the book. And actually, ironically, we just published a book, at Kinsta. Like it's a little over 25,000 words. I wrote it actually. This was one I was really proud of. And it's a book on how to speed up WordPress. But that actually was really cool because we actually printed it out and we're handing it out at WordCamps and kind of taking a little different spin on a typical just blog post kind of thing. But yeah, workflow, long form content, finding a good writing partner, and finding a good, I think, design partner. And then, yeah, I think once you find those people and get a good workflow, things will eventually start to happen. And then if you're really obsessed about things, if you want to go this deep into it, I still track keyword rankings. If you Google, a lot of people agree or disagree that keywords are dead. I don't think they're dead at all. And so I track, if I write a post focused on a keyword, I still write for the user, obviously, but you can still write around a keyword and still focus on a topic. You can do both. And so I like to say, write, smarter, not harder. And so like, why not do both at the same time? So I never do keyword stuffing though. Like I never go back and add keywords. I just write with the keyword in mind. I think and if you have a writer, like just, when you hire a writer, like just tell them, this is kind of my strategy. Like when you write for things, Trello has cool little power-ups you can add. And one is a custom field thing. And so all our Trello cards have custom fields and they each have keywords I add to them. So the writer knows like, this is the keyword we want you to like write around basically on a card. And so if you do that and like you can track keywords, with a tool like AccuRanker or Ahrefs or, SEMrush or something like that. But I think it's really important because you'll notice after a while that say you hit the first page of Google for a keyword, which is awesome. But after a while, it might dip to the second or third page. Like obviously that's not good. And I've noticed, if you go back and maybe say add more content to that same post, and then maybe even change the date sometimes so it shows back at the top of your blog and back in your RSS feeds again, and then reshare it all over social media all over again with the newly updated content. I've noticed, that will then suddenly spike rankings all over again. So it's something that you just have to keep going back and forth to. But if you track rankings like that, you'll see tons of little tricks like that work with Google. And it's not like gaming the system. It's just finding out, what Google's looking at. And obviously, updating content is not just great for Google, it's great for the user as well, too. And that's why people are happy to reshare it and stuff, too. So
maybe you've noticed the logo of wpcrib is a duck. So what would you say is the sound that a duck makes?
A duck makes? Quack?
So that was Brian from Kinsta. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to visit wpcrib.com to see more awesome interviews like this one. Bye.